What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new Hulu original movie that I saw the poster for and read some things about online that sounded really interesting. It's a story of like a Mr. Rogers type character that's evil and tries to kidnap children. I always love when horror movies take these concepts around like children's shows or amusement parks or things that are seemingly more innocent and take it on a sinister turn. It's such a fascinating concept. I love watching how directors and creators approach it because there's something very twisted about taking something that you know that's so comforting and spinning it and turning it into something so evil and heinous. And so the idea around this movie was really fascinating to me. Didn't watch a trailer before I watched this movie or anything. Went into it completely blind. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is Mr. Crocket. Mr. Crocket is directed by Brandon Espy. A single mother thinks she's found the key to calming her child down. A VHS copy of a strange children's program named Mr. Crockett's World. However, a darker, bloodier secret waits to invade their home from inside the tape. So I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, just a very sinister concept, and was curious as to what the approach would be. And this is a movie that is filled with a lot of really great ideas, has some excellent practical effects, and a few really solid performances that unfortunately isn't a very good movie. I feel like there's a lot of great things here, but it doesn't necessarily package itself in a way that feels like a satisfying viewing experience overall. There's a lot of dead space in this movie and moments that just don't do a whole lot to add to the narrative or to keep you compelled as a viewer. And that's unfortunate because I feel like this has so much potential to be something great, but just falls short in a lot of ways. And I'll talk about it when I break the movie down as a whole. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Summer and her son Major. And recently, Summer's husband has passed away, and her son is processing it. He's not showing a whole lot of emotion initially, and she has to take over as the sole parent of the household. And Major is consistently acting out and disobeying her at every single turn. And she's becoming increasingly irritated. And one night she goes outside of her house, and this is in the 1990s. And she goes outside of the house, and there's one of those, like, you see them sometimes in communities that people will put books and things in, and it's kind of like a community library. One of them pops up outside of her house, and she finds a VHS tape inside called Mr. Crockett's World. And she takes it inside, puts it in the VHS player, and hopes that it will calm her son down. Well, Major becomes fascinated with the video and watches it over and over again. And we as an audience slowly start to see that Mr. Crocket inside of the video is alive, and he interacts with the kids and he tries to kidnap children. And the entirety of the film is Mr. Crocket can come out of the VHS tape and he disciplines parents that he does not deem to be kind enough to the children and takes the children back into his world. And the entire movie is Summer trying to stop Mr. Crocket from taking her son. So like I said, I thought this movie had a really cool concept, but the execution is flawed. But I'm going to start off with the positives. For starters, I loved the practical effects in this. You obviously have this world very similar to like Mr. Rogers or Pee-wee's Playhouse. There's a lot of props and characters in the show that have a ton of personality. And when you're in the sort of demented hellscape realm that Mr. Crocket has created, that's like that world but just turned dark, it was incredible the level of attention to detail paid to just each and every one of the props in the frame. I loved that so much, and it really created this sick and twisted world that was easy to immerse yourself into. I love like this chair that he uses that he like holds people captive in that can talk, and it's just like seeing its limbs and just the way that it moves. It was really eerie, and there's a ton of creatures in the movie that are very similar to that. And I like how he uses this marker as a way to kind of like teleport between places and create different objects. And it was really neat. He just feels like this mystical television show character that is using his powers for evil, which I really liked a lot about the movie. It made it an easy breezy watch. Elvis Nolasco, who plays Mr. Crocket, is incredible. He was the standout in this movie for me. The way that he so seamlessly shifts from like this innocent man who just wants to be there for kids to this really horrible, awful, evil human being. It's just incredible how quick he can just flip the switch and become that other personality. And he has to do it a lot throughout the movie where he just shifts from one way to another. And it was really fun to watch him just give 110% throughout the entirety of the film. And there were so many moments that I just found him to be completely and totally captivating, especially towards the third act where he really starts to become unhinged. It's very easy to watch and appreciate his performance. And I loved all of that. I loved his performance. A lot of the actors in the movie do a nice job. I really liked the set and production design and the way that it was filmed. The problem is the story here is kind of underwhelming, and the way that it's written and the way that information is presented to you becomes a bit of a chore to get through, especially towards the third act. There's just these heavy moments of expositional dialogue telling you every single bit of detail that you need to know. And I understand in horror movies, you're trying to give characters a backstory. You're trying to do something so your audience can be more engaged, but do it in a way that's a bit more compelling. I liked towards the third act when Mr. Crocket was kind of telling the story about himself, and it was done through like a storybook narration where you got animation on screen, and it was sick and twisted, and I really liked that. But there was a lot of other elements in this movie as to how information was revealed that it was just a lot lazier, and it didn't keep me compelled. There aren't a whole lot of twists and turns in this movie. It kind of plays out in the direction that you would assume that it would go into, which isn't necessarily a horrible problem, but because it's relatively predictable, it doesn't really keep you on the edge of your seat all that much. And especially at a lot of the midway points of the movie where it's just like Mr. Crocket shows up at a house to kidnap another kid. I wish there was more with like the characters and the practical effects incorporated at each one of those instead of just him showing up and making kind of like a one-off remark and then disappearing. I just love the amount of time and effort they put into the third act and the world and just all of the creature design and how menacing the kids are, like the brainwashed kids. There's a really great scene towards the third act involving the kids that's truly horrifying. And I loved all of that, but I just wish there was more of it throughout the middle runtime. There's this whole subplot with this lady who her son has disappeared, who she's now homeless, and they make it a whole big segment into the movie. And I just wasn't all that interested in it. I didn't feel like any of the emotional beats really hit as hard as the director was going for. And so because of that, it makes the movie less engaging than it probably should be. And a lot of the messaging surrounding like parenting and paying attention to your kids, it just feels a little on the nose in a way that like was annoying after a while. And I'm not sure exactly what the director was going for here or if he had any intention of having any sort of messaging like that throughout the film, but it just comes off as a little cheesy, felt like a made for TV movie in a lot of moments. I wish it could have been played a little straighter other than going for like hokey emotional beats. And I think it would have been more effective if those were removed. And like I said, there are great practical effects here, a really solid lead performance, but I just wish there was more. And that's what disappointed me about the film as a whole. So have you seen Mr. Crocket? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was entertaining and it definitely has some solid performances, but I feel like it could have used some rewrites and it would have been something much more impactful. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.